Hey guys, so okay, welcome back to the letter. Let's carry on with Ashton's chapter here. The crew pretty much hit rock bottom last episode, arguing and fighting in between. So hopefully we can patch things up with Zach here, with Ashton. Here we go.
Hell, feel free to throw in the usual robbery and missing persons case into the mix. I don't care. Give me a few days and I'll give you a lead. This isn't how I operate. This isn't what I'm good at. For all you know, I might even end up getting us killed. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, the fact that you're frustrated but still trying already means something, Ash. Besides, you don't make that face unless you already have an idea. It can't be any worse than this. Maybe. What's on your mind, Ash?
There really is something about Z-Man. Between Rebecca and him. I tend to share with him things I won't normally say to the other. Unlike her who pushes, sometimes with the same tenacity as her moods. Zach has this strange tendency to ease people into telling him what he wants to know. Oftentimes, the question feels so subtle, catches me off guard, with less force and more forbearance. After all, out of everyone, he's the most grounded. Really, he's like the older brother I never had, the kind you can depend on when things go sour. The kind you tell things to simply because he'll listen, without forcing his own opinions on you.
We still have one more lead we haven't checked. I'm gonna look into it tonight.
It doesn't take him long to put two and two together, and his calm expression abruptly dissolves to worry the second he realizes what I meant. We've already examined the letter, read through piles of documents. There's really only one we haven't given a once-over. The mansion. Of course, Zack may not be the kind to push, but that doesn't mean he agrees with everything that comes out of my mouth. It's his way of keeping me steady and on my feet through the years.
Hold on, didn't you tell me not to go in there? Whatever happened to stay away from Luke Wright?
Hey, Zack. Do as I say, not as I do, okay?
You're an unarmed civilian, Zach.
That too.
And so?
So, I want you to stay here and keep yourself safe. I probably won't take too long, but I don't know what might happen. I'm not even sure if I'll find something in there. G will keep an eye on you guys. If you need anything, that woman shows up, just holler. He'll help out, no questions asked. You don't even need to explain anything.
Yeah, if she just comes spiraling out of that TV screen there, just call out to G, he'll be there, no problem. It's not like he believes any of this. He's not willing to concede. Not from the manner he grips his knees or the rigid set to his jaw.
I'm going with you. You can't go in there alone, Ash. I heard something. The morning I was there, I heard someone scream and then there was a woman crying, and I don't know what's going on inside that mansion, but I am telling you, you shouldn't face whatever's inside alone.
Before I can stop myself, a heavy breath escapes from my mouth. It's one of those times again where Zack means well, but he's completely missing the point I'm trying to make. When things take a turn for this, when he gets in a mood like this, he's almost as headstrong as Isabella. How and where do I even start? You'll only get in the way. I'd feel better if I don't have to worry about you. Great. Both dismissing him. Obviously this one's more hostile, this one's a bit more lenient. Obviously we should not create any more hostilities within the group. We need to encourage each other. We need a bond, man. Stick together. Beat this ghost. Let's be nice. Here we go. I think that's the nice one anyway. Yes, good. Alright. There are only two ways this will end. I agree with him and take him with me. Or I agree with him and drop the idea altogether. Neither appeals more than the other. Especially when we're all desperate for answers and a way out. If all it'll take is a little more honesty to make him drop this harebrained idea, so be it.
Look, man. Bro. Z-Man. Zach. Zachary, listen.
Dude. Zach. Pal. Bro. Buddy. Mate. Dude. Oh, God.
I know you only want to help.
Poor Ashton, overdoing it there for a bit.
Like hell!
Oh,
This ain't just about helping, Ashton! You're throwing yourself in the thick of it, on your own!
See, man, we're in public.
Was your fall last night really that bad? Did you hit your head hard? I honestly can't tell if you've gone stupid or just plain suicidal.
My head's okay, Zach. But it won't stay that way if we don't do anything about this. Someone has to.
Seriously? This is already a desperate move. The longer we dally, the faster we're losing our options. Do we even have one? Looking back at it, this whole business with the ghost seems perfectly set up to drive us into a corner. Either until we lose our mind or she gets us. It's starting to feel as if there isn't an escape. We've already become her playthings the second Isabella found that letter. That our lives are in her hands ticks me off big time. But the idea of watching the people I care about die helplessly, more so. They're much safer here than with me. It's a selfish thought, I know, born out of fear. So in case things go awry, the very last thing I want to happen is for Zach to take the fall with me. I've already made enough mistakes.
And that means it's just you.
Just me.
Suddenly he clams up, although his actions, the restless shift in his shoulders, his mouth pressing close in a tight line, and how he starts off again in a quiet tone. It all gives away his real thoughts, long before 2 words have even made it out of his mouth.
I'm sure you already know about this. This won't really bring her back.
I know.
Maybe this is you trying to make amends, or whatever. I don't know. You're making your own decisions here.
Exactly, we're trying to make up for it. Like, I feel like I'm a lot like Ash in that regard. Like, I feel guilty that it was my fault, and it is my fault in this case. Not Ashton's fault, but me as the player, that Rebecca freaking died. And so now I'm trying to, like, make up for it and trying to save all you guys.
But if something happens to you, it'll be just that. You'll just be another dead body out there.
I know, but I have to try.
Please, don't do something like this.
Don't worry. I'm not stupid enough to get myself killed.
Okay, I'm not like Ashton in that regard, okay? That's famous last words territory, Ashton. Don't jinx yourself.
I just want things to go back to normal, Zach.
Another dead air follows at the heels of that one admission. The meaning of my words, too heavy, too striking. It stuns us into another lull. Optimism aside, we're both aware that's impossible. Yeah, unfortunately. You've lost a close friend, like, seen some shit. We're gonna have to deal with the trauma right after. There'll be images, the voices whispering inside our heads, the foreboding feeling, the stench of blood, gore, and death trailing after us. We may survive this, but those things, they'll remain in us for a long time. One does not survive something like this without leaving something in you. Just the mere thought of what might come right after makes me dread it. What this has changed in all of us. But I suppose that outcome is more acceptable. The lesser of two evils.
3 hours.
My head snaps up, and I turn to him puzzled. He's staring at his hands with a thoughtful expression, brows furrowed in deep concentration, like he's trying to choose the right words to convey what he's about to say.
3 hours? For what?
That's more than enough time to go there, to check things, like you said, and travel back here. If you don't show up here beyond that, I'm going after you.
From his tone, it sounds almost like a warning. I'm sure it's not his intention. But hearing something like that from a person like Zach, I can't help but chuckle and throw in a jibe, despite how dire things are. Just like the old times.
Make that 4.
What? You said you're just gonna check things. Why would you even need that long?
Speed limit? I'm a ranked law enforcement officer, Zach. I'm supposed to set an example.
So snarky.
I so wanna punch you right now.
Don't blame you. Of course, Zach never carries it out. In light moments like this, it's just how he is. How we are. Unfortunately, G chooses the next moment to show up. He slams the flat of his palm on the counter and shooting us both a stern look. Although his tone's nothing short of jovial, the disapproval's clear in it. He's obviously misunderstanding the situation.
Boys, drummer's nice and all. I used to watch these bloody god-awful afternoon serials with one of my brothers many, many years ago. But listen, I am not having one in my pub, all right? You two want to fight? Go out.
That sounds like his usual scripted no fighting in my pub speech that he gives out to probably a lot of these patrons. A pregnant pause. Then without any preamble, Zach and I are both snickering, and G's glower melts into confusion. We both show no signs of stopping. He simply shakes his head and turns away. I'd like to think it's better this way. Better that we part on light terms, so Zach won't have to see every little insecurity, every little doubt in me right now. Yeah, it's good that we did that. Awesome. Journal entry. Zachary's arrival interrupted Ashton's conversation with G. Left alone, the two attempted to mend things between them, only for things to almost turn sour after Ashton revealed his plans to return to the mansion. His friend eventually acquiesced after Ashton agreed to a time limit. He's seen enough. The last thing I want him to glimpse is another display of weakness. Not when he still stares at me with the same unerring confidence in his eyes. When our mirth dies down, before anything can be said further, before I change my mind, I step away from them, giving Zach's shoulder a quick few pats, mumbling a lame excuse about taking another short nap under my breath, altogether burying the stray thought that flashes fleetingly in my head. Zach has seen me at my lowest bleeding of times. Why does all of it matter now? Afternoon. Good, we had a nice little nap. The sun hangs lower when I stumble back into consciousness and drag myself downstairs. Around this time, the patrons usually start to trickle into the main lounge, until it reaches a peak around midnight. Today, however, it remains thin. But considering what day it isn't too worrisome for the kind of business G runs. He's always complained about the lack of a decent crowd on week start, although he doesn't really begrudge his customers for it. No one wants to start the week with a bad case of a hangover, after all. Even him. Which makes the concerned look he gives come off a bit too odd. With the kind of danger we're in, this swiftly puts me on edge. Even before sleep completely fades from my mind.
Something wrong, G?
G hums, but there's an undertone of annoyance in it despite his casual and open movements. And only after he finishes wiping a tumbler and carefully settles it face down on the table does he give me an answer. The way he stares back at me honestly makes me squirm. Feels like I'm being stared down by my primary school teacher for sleeping in class again.
Nothing much. Monday's still a slow day for this place. But you, might want to check on your friends, kid. Looks like one of them woke up on the wrong side of the bed while you were out.
Oh god, who was it? Another question forms in my head, along with a small, confused frown. Though before a single syllable slips past my mouth, he just has his head on the far side of the main lounge. Isabella, oh god, has settled on one of the tables set in the corner, in deep thought and with a scowl on her face. From the looks of it, it appears woke up on the wrong side of the bed is a complete understatement. Turns out sleep isn't just what some of us need. Even G appears to understand it, in spite of his efforts to look as unconcerned as possible. There's a tense set on his shoulders. A nervous edge lingers in his eyes, as it occasionally flickers over Isabella. He doesn't want to deal with this, especially at the start of another busy week. Not that I know how. I don't even know what puts her in such a bad mood. But the imploring gaze G directs at me leaves me with no choice. It almost feels like he's guilting me into doing something about it. I hate that it's working. You know how I run this pub, kid. No fist fights, no cat fights, no people in sullen moods. Only good booze, bad puns and off-key singing. Go fix it before it turns into something chaotic. Sorry, I tried to do his voice, didn't come through. It's probably not as pity if Isabella's already in that state, but I give him a nod nevertheless.
Sorry about this, G.
He hums something under his breath for an answer and waves me off, turning away and returning to his work without another word. Even with the lack of a sizable crowd, he likes to keep busy. We're the same in that regard. Can't remain still, always has to stay moving, doing something, thinking, whatever keeps the brain at work. I leave him to it shortly after. Part of me wants to thank him for all the trouble he's taken for people he barely even knows. Once this is over, I should probably find some way. In the meantime, I have this immediate problem to fix. Gotta get to this before it turns into a shitstorm. There's a strange lull in this area of the pub. People continue to trickle out instead of in, and this time only 2 tables remain occupied. Soon, these people too will be gone, and the whole place will be devoid of anyone. Frankly, its current state already lends the place an entirely different vibe. Along with the soothing strum of strings and the steady beat of drums playing overhead, there's a calming sense to this. A far cry from times I've been here before. And perhaps it's for this reason why Isabella has chosen this place to retreat. She sits quietly in the furthest corner of the room, in one of the tables set right beside the windows. G usually keeps the curtains closed around this hour, but a small portion of it has been pulled back, revealing the busy streets outside. The late afternoon light spills right through it, outlining her small form and pulling on the surface of the table where both her arms rest. In her hands, she flips a piece of folded paper, turning it from one side to the other without any purpose. The letter. A small frown creases her forehead while she stares at it. Yet, there's something oddly tranquil in the picture she has unknowingly painted. Something I can't bring myself to disturb, if only for a few seconds. It's one of those moments again. The rare ones. The ones where she's too still, too quiet, complete opposite of her usual self. But it's these that often leave a mark. Not her cheery disposition or her lively attitude, but these short few seconds of wordless silence, when the softest sighs and the slightest movements sing louder. The smallest, minuscule things that tell you about the person and their strength more than any words can express. It's these that carve a vivid memory, no matter how brief it lasts. And it breaks soon enough, the second I pry the letter off her hands and plop down on the empty seat next to her. She glares at me, annoyed, and just like that, all of it melts away. Gone is the stillness, replaced quickly by the teasing and friendly jibes. Back again to what we're used to, what's easy, what's familiar. where every truth we hope to convey regrettably goes unsaid between us.
You're going to destroy an important piece of evidence if you keep doing that, Belle.
This time, however, no retort comes from her. Without the letter to glare daggers at, she turns on her hands, now clenched tight in front of her. But she's far from angry. A bit upset, maybe? Who wouldn't be? This curse has already gone far too long. Has already taken someone we care about from us. Regardless, Isabel doesn't seem like she'll start shouting at me. At least compared to every other people I've aggravated, intentional or otherwise. Some light talk may just do the trick and coax her out of this mood.
Come on. If you keep staring at the table like that, you're going to bore a hole on it. I really don't want to OG a new table. He'll pick the most expensive one and leave me begging on the streets.
She levels a quick glance at me, her expression dry and impassive enough to drain every colour out of the room. It's as if I'd just told her a terrible joke and she's expecting there will be more of it. Really now? She needs to give me more credit than that. My jokes are funny when I want them to be.
And I really don't care. I'd even take pictures and post them online. Go away, Ash. I don't want to talk right now.
Yet it sounds half-hearted at best. Like what's happening has already sapped every bit of energy in her, and all that's left are the words. Pretty soon those too will lose their meaning and leave a hollow shell in their wake. It's already unusual to see her like this. Everything's already gone to shit. I'd like at least this one thing to stay normal. So somehow we manage. We continue for the better half of the hour, talking, joking, with her short, feeble responses and banter that never goes anywhere. But it's enough. In the grand scheme of things, amidst the chaos and death shadowing over us, it's these little, inconsequential moments that matter. It's her smile, her laughter when it finally rings. Easy and free of her burdens.
Okay, I have another one.
I don't want to hear it, Ashton. Go away.
No, really, listen. I know someone who talks like an owl.
Will you leave me alone if I bite and ask who?
A pause. And then she frowns. Oh god. I just got it as well. And then she frowns as realization slowly dawns on her. Confusion flashes fleetingly across her face before eventually settling on a grimace.
Oh.
Suddenly, she hugs her arms close to herself and looks away, perhaps in her best attempt to stay angry. To no avail. In a matter of seconds, her shoulders shake with laughter she's trying to contain.
You're awful and I really hate you. Just leave.
She's so confused. It's contagious, her mirth. Soon I'm joining her in it, briefly forgetting every problem that has piled up and continues to weigh down on us. Laughing without reservation or care, until only a familiar warmth lingers, once both our amusement ebbs away. Somehow, with her, these things have always come easy.
Feeling better?
A little. You're still lame.
But you're laughing right now.
Only because your humor is terrible.
It's probably just, pity laughs.
Right. Keep telling yourself that. I know it's funny. And you know what? If you've kept frowning like that, your face might have cracked. That would have been really messy and ugly.
If glares can kill. With the one she sends my way, I'll probably be dead by now. Seeing it directed my way, it takes only a few quick seconds for me to realize how she might have also taken my statement. How wrong and rude it might have sounded in her ears, however unintentional it is. I've never been good with words, but that's never an acceptable excuse, is it? Suddenly, taking the brunt of her anger seems less complicated than correcting or explaining myself. Nevertheless, I try.
What? Ah, crap. Damn it, that was so not what I meant.
Yeah.
I was just saying you look better when you're smiling.
Her glare doesn't even wane. In fact, I think it intensified like the brewing storm. In the face of it, under the sharpness of her stare and her annoyance, I do what any person with a good sense of self-preservation does. Keep my mouth shut and shift my attention elsewhere. The crowd outside looks very interesting today. Maybe I should...
Thanks, Ash.
She utters all of it in a voice too small, too quiet. But when I turn to her, only those words, her gratitude, resonate throughout the whole room. Not the soft clinking of silverware somewhere, nor the last strains of music fading into silence above us. Instead, it's the meaning behind her gaze as she holds mine that lingers. Steady, unflinching, and open. In the same way she looked at me all those years ago, with bright eyes and expression softening into a tender smile. I didn't understand it then. How easy it is for her to wear her heart on her sleeve. How she never shies away from expressing herself, even among people she barely knows. How she can go through everything without losing herself. Now it's among the hundreds, the thousands that hang unspoken between us. Trivial little things that worth still too big to put into words. Either because it's too early, or because there's never really a proper time. For now though, this This'll do. Until the moment itself dwindles. Until reality pulls us back in, reminding us of the things we've set aside in its favor.
What was that about earlier? You look like you're about to wage war on that letter.
Oh, it's nothing. You probably won't like it when you hear it.
Maybe. You haven't said anything yet, so how am I supposed to decide how to react?
A small frown returns to her face. Although it lacks the same anger from just a few minutes ago, the bitterness stays. Now, there's also uncertainty. It takes another minute until she speaks again. This time, she doesn't meet my eye.
I was just thinking... Maybe we should go back to the mansion.
Blood freezes in my veins. Immediately, before I can even think further on what to say, my mouth's moving. A disapproval ready at the tip of my tongue.
Isabella, you know that's...
I know, Ash. I just thought we'd find something in there. That if I go back, we'll get the answers we need. I found the letter there, so maybe, right?
It's not that I don't agree with her. Hell, I've been considering the same thing. It's the only lead we have, after all. But it's not going to be a simple walk in the park. Who knows what we might find in there. If I bring her with me, I won't be able to guarantee her safety. She'll be in even greater danger. Hence, alone. Exactly as I've told Zach. If there's a need to go back to that accursed place, I'm doing it on my own. Whether or not the rest of them agree with this plan is inconsequential. Their well-being is my top priority. I'm not just about to drag them in there with me. So I tell her as much, despite the determination and desperation in her eyes. Anything to keep her safe. Which one do I say? I have to just say it's dangerous. If I say that, she'll get mad at me.
Forget it, Belle. You're not going back to that mansion.
I can't quite tell what happened.
But Ash, what about...
This isn't up for debate. Do you really think they'll just let you in? Do you really think they'll give a damn if you walk in there carrying that stupid letter of all things?
No, but there has to be something we can tell them. Ash, they were with me during the open house. They have to know. They're in as much trouble as we are. They're living in that place. That ghost woman came from there. Both her and the letter. Something's in that house, Ash. And whatever it hides might be the only thing that'll get us out of this mess.
Alright. Supposing you do find an answer there. What happens? Let's say that by some dumb luck, you got inside and found something.
What if you see her again? What if she goes after you? What are you gonna do?
It's not like we have any other choice. Besides, I'm pretty sure you've already thought of the same thing. Admit it.
No.
That doesn't mean I'm going to let you run straight into trouble. What you're planning to do is risky. For you. Give it up, Isabella.
Unexpectedly, Isabella merely clams up. No resistance. No further argument like I've come to expect from her. Uncharacteristic. Just a silence that stretches far too thin, till the air in the whole room grows awkward and suffocating. A standstill that'll get us nowhere. Although, if there's one thing our talk has wonderfully succeeded at, it's making me feel like a total asshole and a hypocrite. And I am, considering my plans tonight. Sure, I can tell her, but what good would that do? I've already told Zach. One person is enough. Hell, simply letting someone in on the plan makes me iffy. Broadening that circle and revealing too much would just cause another pointless concern. But someone has to be aware, at least of where I'm heading off to, in case things don't pan out. Expect the worst, even if I've only intended to do a quick survey of the place. In my own words, risky. Isabella doesn't need to be burdened with the worry my entire scheme entails. I'd like to think that, yes, to some extent she understands, even if she doesn't entirely agree with me. The dilemma is clear in her. Otherwise her scowl wouldn't have a deeper set to it. Her lips wouldn't be pressed to a thin line, or her hand would no longer be balled into fists. She would have pushed that argument, if she doesn't, and I know she has no lack of things to say. Maybe it's because she's already thought of the same thing. Maybe my words have made her come to her senses. Either way, it's best that we simply leave it here for now. Without another word, I stand up. At the same time, footsteps shuffle from the pub's entrance and cheerful chatter suddenly fills the room as a group of people enter. It's all the distraction I need. Muttering an excuse, I beat a hasty exit out of the main lounge and leave her on her own, despite the disappointed look on her face. Sorry, Isabella, it's for your own protection, okay? When Ashton showed up at the pub's main lounge again, he found Isabella alone in the corner. She hesitantly brought up the idea of going back to the mansion. Despite agreeing, he insisted she would only put herself at risk. Although she acquiesced, dismay was clear in her face. Alright. Maybe there was a chance to bring them both with us, if I could, but I managed to convince them to stay. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just combing through all this stuff. Alright. Before Isabella can say what she's been mulling over, before the last imploring glance she directs my way forces me to change my mind. It's another lasting image that firmly etches itself in my memory, one that spurs the conscience, among other things. I just hope I won't regret what I've chosen for myself tonight. Oh dear. So, we are going by ourselves. I feel like we should have told one of them to come, but I didn't know how to do it. Anyway, Galway Shoal's Monday night crowd, although small and barely occupies a quarter of the whole pub, provides ample enough cover for anyone who wishes to leave the place unnoticed. Just exactly what I need tonight. With the lively music and chatter, slipping out, mostly unseen, becomes a piece of cake. Without much trouble, soon enough I find myself standing outside under the chilly Luxbourne night. A gust of wind picks up shortly after I step out, carrying the telltale smell of an impending rain. I'll give it about an hour or two before it starts. From the looks of it, tonight will be another downpour, maybe even stronger than the one we've had this morning. On instinct, I hunch further into my jacket, hugging its thick material close to my body while I weave my way through the empty lines of cars in the parking lot. The leather crinkles in my pocket with each step I take, though I pay it no mind, as I hurry towards my car. I've nicked it minutes ago from Isabella's belongings on my way out. If this is all connected, I need this damn piece of paper with me. However ridiculous it sounds. I'm quite sure it won't be missed either, but I can't waste time here and wait for her to find out, can I? 4 hours is all I'm giving myself to get this done. 3 if I'm inclined to go by the rules Z-Man set, but when have I ever? Regardless of how generous that is, each second's just as important as the next. But as with every plan, problems crop up at the last second. It's practically a universal rule. And it does, in the form of a lone figure waiting for me next to my car. What the hell? Isabella turns just as I near, her mouth curving up in a small smile. She offers no greeting except for a shy tilt of her head. Even as my pace slows and I look at her with unvoiced questions in my eyes, she remains wordless, merely throwing her head back and shifting her attention up at the starless sky when I come up to stand beside her. Another gust of wind blows as she breathes out a sigh, weary, thick with something close to resignation. The breeze carries all of it away, while she hugs her arms closer to herself to keep warm, which raises the question, why she's out here. The air's already heavy with the promise of rain. With clouds obscuring the view, there's really nothing left to look at but a dark blanket of nothingness. Still, she stands here as if she's intentionally waiting for everything to fall. That, or she's here for some other reason.
Belle, I can't bring you with me.
I know. I won't ask you to.
Go back inside. G will keep an eye on you while I'm gone. You can trust him. And hey, you also have Z-Man with you.
Don't worry. I will. In a while. I just want a bit of fresh air.
I know we're going alone, but I want to keep these guys safe.
Well, don't stay out there too long. It's going to rain soon. It'll probably be even heavier than the downpour we had this morning. You wouldn't want to be caught in it.
I give her shoulder a reassuring squeeze before walking past her and heading to my car. No 2 steps further, though, something pulls the back of my jacket, catching the fabric in a firm grip and halting my movements.
Isabella, I need to go.
She refuses to meet my eyes, but her hold remains tight. There's a worried crease between her eyebrows and her lips quiver ever so slightly when she speaks. In a small voice, brimming with a different kind of desperation I can't quite place.
Rebecca's gone.
I know. Okay, you don't need to keep reminding me of my failures. She draws in a breath, soft, slow, lined with enough sorrow that it hitches.
And if that thing takes you, too.
The rest of it falters, but the meaning, the gravity, in each of her words rings loudly above the passing breeze, hanging over us, lingering in between. A small little thing that spurs me into silence, like the wind has suddenly been knocked out of me in one fell swoop. No words will form, not even a single coherent thought. And so, in place of it, in place of everything untold and we've taken for granted, I draw her in, gently, quietly, pulling her against me until my arms settle around her shoulders.
Ash?
For a fleeting second she freezes, startled, and looks up to me with hesitation and a silent question in her eyes. Whatever answer she finds in mine, eventually, she allows this. She folds herself into me, buries her face into my shoulder and settles her arms on my sides, unsure, uncertain.
It'll be over soon. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way to get us out of this. But no matter what happens, I want you to promise that you will stay alive until then. Because if I lose you to her as well, I have no idea what else would keep me grounded.
When all has been said and done, I rest my forehead against hers, eyes closed and simply taking in her warmth. Desperation still clings, woven into every breath, every sigh. But at the heart of it is this. Her. No words are said, even as we part. But I'll let this be the last thing I commit to memory before slipping inside my car and driving off.